First contact. The massive freighter Astral Voyager drifted silently through the inky blackness of deep space, its hull scarred from countless micrometeorite impacts over decades of service. Inside the bridge, Captain Sarah Chen stared out the reinforced viewports, her eyes scanning the star-speckled void for any sign of the anomaly that had thrown their ship off course. "Anything on long-range sensors, Zeke?" she asked, glancing over at her navigation officer. Zeke shook his head, his brow furrowed in concentration as he studied the holographic readouts floating above his console. "Nothing yet, Captain. Whatever knocked us out of FTL, it's not showing up on any of our scans." Sarah frowned, absently running a hand through her short black hair. After 15 years of deep space hauls, she thought she'd seen it all. But in all her time captaining freighters across the galaxy, she'd never encountered anything that could yank a ship out of faster-than-light travel without leaving a trace. "Keep scanning," she ordered. "I want to know the second anything unusual pops up on our sensors." As if on cue, a shrill alarm blared through the bridge. Sarah's head snapped towards the tactical station where her weapons officer, a burly ex-Marine named Rodriguez, was frantically tapping at his control panel. "Captain, we've got a massive energy signature coming out of nowhere," Rodriguez shouted. It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Sarah's pulse quickened as she strode over to Rodriguez's station. "On screen," she commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a swirling vortex of crackling purple energy that seemed to tear a hole in the very fabric of space-time. Sarah's eyes widened as she watched the anomaly expand, growing large enough to swallow their freighter whole. "All hands, brace for impact," she yelled into the ship-wide comm system. The Astral Voyager shuddered violently as tendrils of energy lashed out from the vortex, enveloping the freighter in a web of crackling purple light. Sarah gripped the edge of the tactical station, her knuckles white, as the ship was dragged inexorably towards the swirling maw. Just as they reached the event horizon, Sarah caught a glimpse of something massive emerging from the vortex, a writhing shape easily twice the size of her freighter. Then everything went white, as reality itself seemed to bend and twist around them. When Sarah's vision cleared, she found herself sprawled on the deck plating, alarms blaring all around her. She staggered to her feet, fighting off a wave of vertigo. "Damage report," she barked. Zeke's voice came back shaky but coherent. "Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, Captain. Emergency force fields are holding for now, but we've lost main power. Running on auxiliaries." Sarah grimaced. Not good, but they were still in one piece. What about our position? Where the hell did that anomaly spit us out? There was a long pause before Zeke responded, his voice barely above a whisper. "Captain, according to these readings, we're over 500,000 light-years from our last known position. We're in another galaxy entirely." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. This was impossible. Even the most advanced FTL drives would take centuries to cross such a vast distance. Yet somehow they'd been hurled clear across the universe in the blink of an eye. "Rodriguez, what's our weapons status?" she asked, forcing herself to focus on immediate priorities. "Not good, Mom," the weapons officer replied grimly. "Main cannon is offline, and we're down to 30% on point defense systems." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. They were alone in uncharted space, their ship crippled and nearly defenseless, and something told her that whatever had dragged them here wasn't friendly. As if to confirm her fears, the main view screen flickered back to life, revealing a sight that made Sarah's blood run cold. An enormous creature filled the display, its body a nightmare fusion of tentacles, chitinous armor, and pulsing otherworldly flesh. Glowing purple eyes the size of shuttlecraft regarded the Astral Voyager with alien hunger. "Holy shit," Rodriguez breathed. "What the hell is that thing?" Before Sarah could respond, a deafening psychic shriek tore through her mind, bringing her to her knees. Through the haze of pain, she saw the rest of her bridge crew clutching their heads in agony. As the psychic assault faded, Sarah forced herself back to her feet, her ears ringing. She stared at the monstrous entity on the view screen, a cold certainty settling in her gut. This was what had brought them here, the most terrifying predator humanity had ever encountered. And they were its prey. "All hands," Sarah announced, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. "Prepare for combat. We may be outgunned and out of our depth, but we're not going down without a fight. It's time to show this thing what humans are made of." As her crew scrambled to battle stations, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. They might be facing impossible odds, but if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was beating the impossible. The hunt was on, and Sarah Chen intended to make damn sure they weren't the ones being hunted. The chase begins. The massive creature's tentacles lashed out, each impact sending tremors through the astral Voyager's hull. Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair, barking orders as her crew fought to keep their crippled ship intact. Evasive maneuvers. Zeke. Rodriguez, target those tentacles with whatever weapons we've got left. The freighter lurched to port, narrowly avoiding a strike that would have crushed their starboard engine nacelle. Point defense lasers flashed, scorching the creature's chitinous hide, but seeming to do little real damage. "It's no use, Captain," Rodriguez shouted over the din of alarms. "Our weapons barely scratch it." Sarah gritted her teeth, her mind racing. They couldn't outfight this monster, but maybe they could outsmart it. Her eyes darted to the sensor readouts, searching for anything they could use to their advantage. There, a dense asteroid field less than 1,000,000 kilometers away. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. "Zeke, plot a course through that asteroid field, full impulse," she ordered. "Rodriguez, divert all remaining power to shields and engines." Her navigation officer's eyes widened. "Captain, at full impulse we'll be flying blind in there. One wrong move and we're space dust." "Then don't make a wrong move," Sarah shot back. "It's either that or let Tentacles McKee out there turn us into scrap metal." As if to emphasize her point, another blow rocked the ship, sending sparks cascading from ruptured power conduits. Sarah watched the main view screen as Zeke accelerated towards the asteroid field, the looming chunks of rock and ice growing rapidly larger. The monstrous predator gave chase, its impossible bulk somehow keeping pace with the nimble freighter. Just before they entered the field, Sarah caught a glimpse of its massive maw opening wide, revealing row upon row of crystalline teeth. "Brace for impact," she yelled as they plunged into the maelstrom of tumbling space debris. What followed was the most harrowing piloting Sarah had ever witnessed. Zeke's hands flew across his console, making split-second course corrections as house-sized asteroids hurtled past them with meters to spare. The ship shuddered and groaned, its structural integrity pushed to the limit by the frequent near misses and glancing blows. Behind them, the creature smashed through smaller asteroids like they were made of paper, purple energy crackling around its form as it phased partially out of normal spacetime to avoid the largest obstacles. "We can't keep this up forever, Captain," Rodriguez warned, his face pale as he monitored the ship's rapidly depleting power reserves. Sarah nodded grimly. "We don't have to. We just need to last long enough to." Her words were cut off by a bone-jarring impact that sent her sprawling to the deck. As she pulled herself up, she saw a massive asteroid looming directly in their path. Too close to avoid. Hard to starboard. She screamed. Zeke yanked the controls, but it was too late. The astral Voyager clipped the edge of the asteroid, shearing off a good portion of their port side. Klaxons blared as the ship began to tumble end over end, inertial dampeners struggling to compensate. Through the chaotic spin, Sarah caught fleeting glimpses of their pursuer. The creature had overshot them, its bulk working against it as it tried to change direction. For a moment, hope flared in her chest. Then she saw the vortex forming in front of the beast, another spatial rift like the one that had brought them to this galaxy. The creature was about to escape, leaving them stranded and crippled in unknown space. Sarah's mind raced. If that thing got away, it could return with others of its kind. They had to stop it, had to find some way to. An idea struck her, as brilliant as it was insane. "Zeke, can you get us close to that rift?" she asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. Her navigation officer stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Captain, we're barely holding together as it is. If we go near that thing, we'll be torn apart, I know," Sarah finished for him. "But if we don't, that monster escapes and potentially dooms every living thing in our galaxy. We have to take the chance." She saw the moment of hesitation in Zeke's eyes, followed by grim determination. He nodded once, then turned back to his console. "All right, folks, this is gonna get bumpy," Sarah announced over the ship-wide comm. "All hands, prepare for emergency atmospheric entry. We're taking this fight planet-side." As Zeke maneuvered their battered ship towards the swirling vortex, Sarah allowed herself a small, fierce grin. They were battered, outgunned, and flying by the seat of their pants. But they were also human, and if there was one thing humans did better than any other species in the known universe, it was beating impossible odds. The astral Voyager plunged into the rift mere seconds behind the gargantuan predator, reality warping around them in a kaleidoscope of mind-bending colors. Sarah's last thought before unconsciousness claimed her was a silent prayer that wherever they ended up, it would be somewhere they could turn the tables on their otherworldly hunter. Little did she know, their arrival was about to change the course of an entire civilization, and perhaps the fate of the universe itself. Unlikely allies. Captain Sarah Chen awoke to the acrid smell of smoke and the disorienting sensation of gravity. Her eyes snapped open, taking in the chaos of the astral Voyager's bridge. Emergency lights flickered dimly, casting eerie shadows across the debris-strewn deck. Through the cracked viewports, she could see an alien sky, twin suns beating down on a landscape of purple vegetation and crystalline rock formations. "Status report," she croaked, pulling herself to her feet with a groan. "Still alive, somehow," Rodriguez answered, helping a dazed Zeke up from his collapsed navigation console. "But the ship's done for, Captain. We're groundside on some alien rock, and our unwelcome tentacled friend is nowhere to be seen." Sarah nodded grimly, wincing at the sharp pain in her ribs. "Any idea where we are?" Before anyone could answer, a series of sharp impacts rang out against the hull. Sarah's hand instinctively went to her sidearm, but what she saw through the viewports made her freeze in astonishment. A group of alien creatures stood outside, their bodies a fascinating blend of plant and animal characteristics. They had slender, humanoid frames covered in iridescent bark-like skin, with tendrils of vine-like hair that seemed to move of its own accord. Their eyes glowed with bioluminescent light, regarding the crashed ship with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. One of the aliens stepped forward, raising what appeared to be some kind of organic energy weapon. It spoke, its voice a melodic series of clicks and whistles that reverberated through the ship's hull. "Zeke," Sarah whispered, "tell me the universal translator survived the crash." Her navigation officer tapped at his wrist computer, and a moment later, the alien speech transformed into comprehensible words. "Unknown vessel, you have breached the sacred hunting grounds of the Arboreal Collective. Identify yourselves and state your purpose or face judgment." Sarah took a deep breath, straightened her uniform, and strode towards the airlock. "Well, folks," she said to her crew, "looks like it's time for some impromptu diplomacy. Wish me luck." As the airlock cycled open, Sarah raised her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The alien leader's weapon tracked her movements, but didn't fire. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the human freighter Astral Voyager," she announced, her voice steady despite the tension thrumming through her body. "We mean you no harm. We were pulled into your world while pursuing a dangerous predator, a massive creature capable of tearing holes in space-time." At the mention of the predator, the alien's tendrils writhed in agitation. The leader lowered its weapon slightly, its glowing eyes narrowing. "You speak of the World Eater," it said, its tone a mixture of awe and fear. "The great devourer that has plagued our people for generations. You pursued this beast. Sarah nodded, seizing on the common ground. Yes, we fought it, and followed it through a spatial rift. Have you seen where it went? The alien leader gestured towards a distant mountain range, where ominous storm clouds gathered. The World Eater always returns to the forbidden peaks, where the barriers between realities are thinnest. It is there that it spawns its brood, sending them out to new hunting grounds across the cosmos. Sarah's blood ran cold at the implications. If that monster was breeding, sending its offspring to other galaxies, the devastation would be unimaginable. We need to stop it, she said firmly. Not just for our world, but for yours and countless others. Will you help us? The alien leader was silent for a long moment, its tendrils undulating in what Sarah guessed was their version of deep thought. Finally, it spoke. I am Xylos, warden of the Third Arbor. For eons, my people have lived in fear of the World Eater, powerless against its might. But perhaps with your strange technology and our knowledge of this world, we might stand a chance. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. That's all I ask. Together, we might just be able to pull off the impossible. As Xylos began coordinating with his fellow Arborians, Sarah turned back to her crew. All right, people, we've got work to do. Zeke, see what you can salvage from the ship's systems, especially weapons and communication gear. Rodriguez, start taking stock of our supplies. We're going monster hunting. Over the next few hours, an unlikely alliance took shape. The Arborians, fascinated by human technology, offered their own organic tech in return. Living armor that adapted to its wearer, weapons that grew their own ammunition, and symbiotic creatures that could enhance strength and speed. As the twin suns began to set, casting the alien landscape in an ethereal purple twilight, Sarah stood at the edge of the makeshift camp, gazing towards the distant forbidden peaks. Somewhere out there, the most dangerous predator in the universe was preparing to spread its terror across reality itself. But for the first time since this insane journey began, Sarah felt a glimmer of real hope. Humans and Arborians, two species from opposite ends of the cosmos, united against a common threat. It was the kind of impossible scenario that humans thrived on. Captain, Xylos's melodic voice interrupted her thoughts. Our scouts report movement in the foothills. The World Eater stirs. Sarah nodded, her jaw set with determination. Then it's time we introduce ourselves properly. Let's go remind that overgrown calamari that it picked the wrong species to mess with. As the mixed group of humans and Arborians began their trek towards destiny, Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and in way over their heads. In other words, it was business as usual for humanity. The hunt was on, and this time, they were the predators. Into the abyss, the ragtag group of humans and Arborians trudged through the alien landscape, their path illuminated by the bioluminescent glow of the native flora. Captain Sarah Chen led the way, her makeshift armor, a fusion of salvaged ship plating and living Arborian tech, gleaming dully in the ethereal light. As they neared the forbidden peaks, the very air seemed to thicken with an oppressive energy. Reality itself felt stretched thin, like a soap bubble on the verge of bursting. Sarah's skin crawled with a sensation she couldn't quite place, as if she were simultaneously in multiple places at once. The dimensional barriers grow weak here, Xylos explained, his vine-like tendrils writhing agitatedly. We approached the World Eater's nesting grounds. Sarah nodded grimly. All right, folks, stay sharp. Rodriguez, how are we looking on the weapons front? Her weapons officer hefted an alien rifle that seemed to pulse with internal light. Best we could cobble together on short notice, Captain. These Arborian weapons pack a punch, but they're twitchy. Gotta be careful not to think too hard about firing, or they might just go off on their own. Fantastic, Sarah muttered. Zeke, any luck with the long-range comms? The navigation officer shook his head. Sorry, Captain. Whatever's warping space-time around here, it's playing havoc with our signals. We're on our own. A warm hand on her shoulder made Sarah turn. It was Stylos, his glowing eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. You are troubled, the Arborian stated simply. Sarah sighed, just wondering if we're in over our heads. That thing nearly tore our ship apart in open space. Now we're going after it on foot with cobbled-together weapons and no backup. Xylos's tendrils curled in what Sarah had come to recognize as their equivalent of a smile. Yet you continue forward. This is why we chose to ally with you. Sarah Chen, your kind possesses a resilience that we Arborians have long since lost. Perhaps together, we can rekindle that spark. Before Sarah could respond, a bone-chilling shriek split the air. The group instinctively dropped into defensive positions as the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. Looks like we've been noticed, Rodriguez growled, his weapon at the ready. The tremors intensified, and suddenly the earth before them split open. A massive tentacle, easily the size of their crashed freighter, erupted from the chasm. It was followed by another, and another, until the World Eater hauled its grotesque bulk into view. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The creature was even more terrifying up close, its flesh a nightmare patchwork of traits stolen from 1,000 alien species. Its eyes, gods, it had so many eyes, fixed on the group with predatory intelligence. Well, Sarah said, her voice surprisingly steady, I guess introductions are in order. Any ideas on how to say we're here to kick your ass in tentaclese? As if in response, the World Eater let out another reality-warping shriek. The air around it began to ripple and tear, spatial rifts opening like hungry maws. It's trying to escape. Silos cried. If it flees to another dimension, all is lost. Sarah's mind raced. They couldn't let this thing get away, couldn't let it continue its rampage across the cosmos. But how could they possibly? An idea struck her, as brilliant as it was insane. Zeke, she shouted. The quantum entanglement drive from the ship. Did we salvage it? Her navigator nodded, confusion evident on his face. Yeah, but it's non-functional. Why? Because we're going to use it to hockey an interdimensional space monster, Sarah replied, a fierce grin spreading across her face. Xylos, can your people create a distraction? Something to keep that thing occupied for a few minutes. The Arborian leader nodded, his tendrils already signaling to his warriors. As one, they raised their organic weapons and fired a barrage of energy bolts at the World Eater. The monster roared in pain and fury, momentarily forgetting its attempt to flee as it lashed out at its attackers. All right, here's the plan, Sarah said, huddling with her crew. That quantum entanglement drive works by creating a stable wormhole between 2 points in spacetime. If we can attach one end to that thing and the other to something in this dimension. Rodriguez's eyes widened as he caught on. We could anchor it here, stop it from dimension hopping. Exactly, Sarah nodded. But we'll only get one shot at this. We need to get close enough to plant the drive on its hide. Zeke paled. You mean, one of us has to? Not one of us. Sarah cut him off. Me. I'm not ordering anyone else on a suicide run. Before her crew could protest, Sarah snatched up the salvage drive and sprinted towards the World Eater. She heard Silos shouting something about living vines, but she was too focused on her target to pay attention. The monster's tentacles whipped through the air, pulverizing rock formations and sending Arborian warriors flying. Sarah ducked and weaved, her enhanced reflexes, courtesy of the alien symbiotes, allowing her to narrowly avoid being crushed. As she neared the creature's main body, a tentacle the size of a bus came crashing down towards her. Sarah closed her eyes, certain she was about to be flattened. But the impact never came. She opened her eyes to find herself suspended in midair, held aloft by a network of pulsing vines that had erupted from the ground. Xylos's voice echoed in her mind. Go, Sarah Chen. We will hold it back. With a surge of gratitude, Sarah scrambled along the living vines, using them like a ladder to climb the thrashing bulk of the World Eater. When she Finally reached a suitable spot, she slammed the quantum drive against the creature's hide and activated it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to hiccup. The World Eater let out a shriek of confusion as the spatial rifts it had been forming collapsed in on themselves. It thrashed wildly, nearly dislodging Sarah, but she held on with grim determination. "It's working," she shouted to her allies below. "We've got it pinned." But even as the words left her mouth, Sarah realized their victory was far from assured. The World Eater, denied its ability to flee, was now focusing all its terrifying might on destroying its attackers. And she was still clinging to its back, with no clear way down. As tentacles the size of redwoods came crashing down around her, Sarah Chen allowed herself a rueful smile. They'd accomplished the impossible, tethering an interdimensional predator to a single point in spacetime. Now they just had to figure out how to kill it. The taming. Captain Sarah Chen clung desperately to the writhing hide of the World Eater, her mind racing as she sought a way out of her predicament. The quantum entanglement drive pulsed beneath her hands, anchoring the massive creature to this dimension, but it wouldn't hold forever. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice crackled through her comm unit. "We've got a problem. The drive's energy signature is fluctuating. I don't think it can handle the strain much longer." Sarah gritted her teeth. They'd come too far to fail now. "Xylos," she shouted, hoping the Arborean leader could hear her over the chaos. "You said this thing has been around for generations. How has your species survived this long?" Xylos' response came through a moment later, transmitted via some unknown Arborean technology. We sing to it, Captain Chen. Our ancestors discovered that certain harmonics could calm the World Eater, drive it into a dormant state for a time. A wild idea began to form in Sarah's mind. Zeke, the ship's old sonic deterrent system. Is it salvageable? Already on it, Captain, her navigator replied. But we'd need to boost the signal somehow to affect something this big. Sarah's eyes fell on the pulsing quantum drive. What if we used the drive's wormhole as an amplifier? Broadcast the sonic pulses through multiple points in spacetime simultaneously. There was a moment of stunned silence before Zeke's excited voice came back. That's crazy enough to work. But Captain, the feedback could fry your nervous system if you're too close. No choice, Sarah grunted, narrowly avoiding a thrashing tentacle. Just do it. As her crew scrambled to implement her insane plan, Sarah turned to the Arboreans. Xylos, I need your people to sing. Whatever melodies have worked before, whatever harmonics calm this thing. We need them now. The next few minutes were a blur of frantic activity. Sarah could hear the Arboreans raising their voices in an otherworldly chorus, their melody haunting and beautiful even amidst the chaos. She felt the World Eater's movements begin to slow, its thrashing becoming less violent. Ready, Captain, Zeke's voice came through. Initiating sonic burst in 3, 2, 1. The world exploded into sound. Sarah's entire body vibrated as waves of sonic energy pulsed through the quantum drive, amplified 1,000-fold and broadcast from a dozen points around the World Eater's massive form. The creature's flesh rippled under the assault, and a keening wail escaped its myriad maws. Through the haze of pain that threatened to overwhelm her, Sarah noticed something extraordinary. The World Eater's eyes, once filled with alien malevolence, now showed confusion, then recognition, and finally, intelligence. The sonic assault cut off abruptly, leaving Sarah's ears ringing in the sudden silence. She became aware that she was no longer clinging to the World Eater's hide, but floating gently to the ground, cradled by Arborean vines. As her feet touched the earth, Sarah stared in awe at the transformed World Eater. Its form was still massive and alien, but there was a newfound grace to its movements. Its tentacles, once instruments of destruction, now swayed almost lazily in the air. Xylos approached, his glowing eyes wide with wonder. Incredible, he breathed. In all our history, we've only been able to drive it into temporary dormancy. But this, you've awakened its consciousness, Captain Chen. Sarah shook her head, still trying to process what had happened. I don't understand. How? A new voice entered her mind, vast and ancient and utterly alien. But somehow, she understood. For eons, I have roamed the cosmos. Driven by hunger and instinct, the World Eater communicated. Your song, amplified by the very fabric of space-time. Perhaps now I can be a force for balance, a guardian of realities, ensuring no single power grows too great. Xylos's tendrils curled in agreement. We Arborians will stand with Nexus. Our songs can help maintain its consciousness, prevent it from slipping back into mindless destruction. Together, we can be stewards of the cosmic order. Sarah nodded slowly, her mind racing with the implications. And humanity, we can't just pretend this didn't happen. The things we've seen, the technology we've gained, it's going to change everything. Perhaps that is as it should be, Nexus replied. Your species has proven its worth, Captain Chen. Your ingenuity, your compassion, your ability to see consciousness where others see only monsters. These qualities make you uniquely suited to join us as custodians of the cosmos. The gravity of the moment settled over Sarah. She thought of Earth, of the squabbles and conflicts that had seemed so important just days ago. How small they all seem now, in the face of this vast, interconnected universe. It won't be easy, she said finally, convincing my people to look beyond our own borders, to embrace a role as part of something so much bigger than ourselves. But if anyone can do it, a smile tugged at her lips. Well, humans do have a knack for beating impossible odds. As if to underscore her words, a flash of light erupted in the sky above them. Sarah's hand instinctively went to her weapon, but Nexus raised a tendril in reassurance. Do not fear, it communicated. I sense kin, others like myself, awakening across the cosmos. Your actions here have set off a chain reaction, Captain Chen. The universe itself is stirring. Sarah watched in awe as more flashes appeared, each heralding the awakening of another cosmic entity. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, the dawn of a new age, with humanity standing at its threshold. Well, folks, she said, addressing Xylos and her crew over the comm, looks like our mission just got a whole lot bigger. You up for being humanity's ambassadors to a universe full of awakening cosmic entities? Rodriguez's gruff chuckle came through the comm. Beats hauling cargo, Captain. I say bring it on. Seconded, Zeke chimed in. Someone's got to keep these cosmic types from getting too full of themselves. Might as well be us. Sarah felt a surge of pride in her crew, in humanity's unyielding spirit of exploration and adaptation. They had set out on a simple freight run and ended up reshaping the cosmos. It was so absurd, so perfectly human, that she couldn't help but laugh. As the sky continued to light up with awakening entities, Sarah Chen squared her shoulders and gazed out at the incredible future unfolding before them. Humanity had accidentally tamed the universe's most ferocious predator, and in doing so, had earned itself a seat at the cosmic table. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. It was going to be one hell of an adventure. Cosmic Horizons, 1 year after the events on the Arborian homeworld, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the newly christened HS Nexus, Earth's first interdimensional exploration vessel. The ship, a marvel of human engineering fused with Arborian biotechnology and cosmic entity wisdom, hummed with potential as it prepared for its maiden voyage. Sarah's gaze swept over her crew, a mix of humans, Arborians, and representatives from a dozen other species they'd encountered in their whirlwind year of cosmic diplomacy. Rodriguez manned the weapons console, his gruff exterior softened by the vine-like Arborian implants that enhanced his reflexes. Zeke sat at navigation, his eyes gleaming with excitement as he interfaced with the ship's dimensional drive. Status report, Sarah called out, unable to keep a hint of excitement from her voice. All systems go, Captain, Zeke replied. Dimensional drive is primed and ready. We can punch through to just about anywhere in the multiverse." Rodriguez grunted in affirmation, weapons and shields at full capacity. "Not that we're looking for a fight, but we're ready if trouble finds us." A shimmer in the air announced the arrival of Nexus, their cosmic ally taking form beside Sarah. "The dimensional barriers are stable," it communicated. "I sense no disturbances in our planned trajectory." Sarah nodded, then turned to the final member of her core team. "Xylos, how are our passengers holding up?" The Arborian, now serving as both diplomat and ship's counselor, gestured to a holographic display. "All ambassadors are secured and ready for transit, Captain. I must say, the excitement is palpable. Many of them never dreamed they'd be part of an expedition like this." Sarah couldn't blame them. A year ago, she'd been captaining a rundown freighter on routine cargo runs. Now she was about to lead the first official mission of the newly formed Cosmic Concord, an alliance of species dedicated to exploration, peacekeeping, and the stewardship of awakened cosmic entities. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been resistance on Earth, fear of the unknown, and the immense changes sweeping across the galaxy. But in true human fashion, curiosity and the drive to explore had won out. The promise of new frontiers, new technologies, and a chance to stand equal with the most powerful forces in the universe had proven irresistible. "Attention all hands," Sarah announced over the ship-wide comm. "This is the captain speaking. In a few moments, we'll be making our first dimensional jump. Our mission is one of peace and exploration, but we carry with us the hopes and dreams of not just humanity, but all the species of the Cosmic Concord." She paused, looking out at the star-filled view screen. "A year ago, we set out to stop a monster and ended up changing the fate of the universe. We've proven that humanity's greatest strengths lie not in our technology or our weapons, but in our creativity, our adaptability, and our capacity for understanding. As we venture into the unknown, remember this: every challenge is an opportunity, every stranger a potential ally, and every impossible odds just another Tuesday for the human race." A chuckle rippled through the bridge at her last comment. Sarah smiled, then straightened her uniform. "All right, folks, let's make history. Mr. Zeke, initiate dimensional jump." Zeke's hands danced across his console. The ship hummed, the sound rising to a crescendo as reality itself seemed to bend around them. The starfield on the view screen twisted, stretched, and then, in a flash of impossible colors, the HSS Nexus vanished from normal spacetime, hurtling towards adventures beyond imagination. As they traversed the mind-bending realm between dimensions, Sarah felt a profound sense of pride and purpose. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, armed not with conquest in mind, but with an open hand of friendship and an insatiable curiosity. They had accidentally tamed the universe's most ferocious predator, and in doing so, had unlocked the true potential of not just their own species, but countless others. Whatever wonders or horrors awaited them in the vast multiverse, Sarah knew one thing for certain: humanity was ready. They would face the unknown with ingenuity, adaptability, and that uniquely human blend of reckless courage and boundless compassion. And they would do it not alone, but hand in hand with allies from across the cosmos. The hunt that had started it all was long over. Now, the greatest exploration in human history had begun, and Captain Sarah Chen couldn't wait to see what they would discover next. As the ship emerged into a new reality, bathed in the light of unfamiliar stars, Sarah uttered the words that would become the unofficial motto of the Cosmic Concord. "Well, folks, let's go say hello."